Gerald Davis, aka Gerald Davis, because in the Calibishie lingo we can be a bit abrupt on certain expression and we can be a bit firm on others. Like Fleming Marcel, my dear friend, his right name is McKinney, but back then we call him McKinney. So you see how hard we go on all syllables. And Gerald or Gerald would be Gerald. And people like Valley, there would be no kind of polishing or nuance to people's name. We call it as it is: Valley, Satinet, Welly. You see what I'm saying? We would not say Audrey, we say Audrey. So there was and still is this sort of a Bishie attitude to speaking. When Webster and I meet anywhere, it's straight Bishie lingo. Boy, what if I know? I don't know, boy. And there's a kind of particular strength, not aggression, you know, but kind of a progressive vibe to the way we speak. Papa, poultry, boy, look at them, man, you know, boy. That is Bishie all the way. Now, I think there's some communities who also have the same attitude, but there was every community had its own flair, and Bishie, of course, was no exception. You may observe that it is raining down on me, and I think I'm going to try to bear it through the rain with this program, with this episode, because it just feels good. I hope I don't lose my device by the end of the episode. Anyway, I wanted to speak about Gerald a bit, because Gerald in my time was such a fantastic personality that I think he deserves another mention here on Calibishie Chronicle, and it continues to rain down on me. Wow, this is a beautiful one. Gerald, as I told you, was like a sidekick, my sidekick for sure, in dealing with the younger children, because I was a coach for almost everything. Troublemaking, sports, culture, just name it, dance, break dance, you know, in the 1980s, man, with Michael Jackson. Garnett and me were the biggest break dancers. You know, beat us. Well, every boy tried a thing, but Michael Jackson was in his heyday. But when it comes to break dancing, by elbow disco, it was Garnett and I. Garnett was big on footwork. I myself was big on the upper body kind of a break thing, and give us room. Anyway, Gerald used to try a thing, but Gerald is more like more like an interesting guy all around. But I remember Gerald very well, especially when it comes to sports, because he was always with me, assisting with preparing the boys and the younger children to play sports. And Gerald is always a guy with a temperament that is hard to decipher. But I understood Gerald, and I understood what get him going. And I used to get him going at times. Sometimes I used to just pull back and let Gerald be his own self. So we used to play football and cricket. That was the biggest sports in Calibishie. Volleyball and everything else, but football and cricket were our biggest sports. So Gerald would play for the team. He would pick Gerald. And I remember one time distinctly that the captain wanted to sub Gerald out of the team. And, you know, the whistle went and the sign went up, and they said, Gerald. No, there was no sign. People were just calling names of who have to come out. So they said, Gerald, come, you coming out, for another man to come in. I think it was Carl or somebody. Gerald said, no, I don't come. Gerald said, you're not coming out. And you know Gerald didn't come out? I had to actually sub myself out for somebody else to come in, and I was one of the star players on the team. And the other thing I remember about Gerald, which I want to tell you before I end this episode, is a time that Paul Lawrence, I think, gave Gerald out in cricket. And Gerald said, no, I'm not out. Paul said, yeah, you're out. LBW. Gerald picked up his wicket, his cricket stumps, because he was the one who planted his stumps. He was the one who prepared the pitch. So he pulled out his stumps, and Gerald went for a fuck and started digging the pitch, you know, at that time. That was the kind of a personality Gerald was. He was a good sports person, but he had his own flair when it comes to sports. Anyway, I'm going to have to end there because I'm really being soaked by this wonderful weather on a next episode of Calibishie Chronicle. It was such a pleasure doing this one for you. Especially speaking about Gerald, you see the Malay followed me right away with a trenching or a drenching by the weathers. So we'll link up with you again on the next episode of Calibishie Chronicle.